What makes a performance car special? Is it its spec sheet, how fast it can go, how it sounds, or how it drives? Most times it's a combination of all of those, and in the Audi RS5's case, what it delivers and what the spec sheet promises are a little bit different. In fact, we've seen this car before as a coupe many years ago with its downsized 2.9 litre bi-turbo V6 versus the previous gen's V8. It stands to reason that the car loses a lot in the process, but that's not the case. This just might be a case of the spec sheet ruling out over everything else. You may also be thinking, hey, didn't we just see the S5 Sportback? And doesn't that have the 3 litre turbo V6 too? Well, you'd be right. The one in the RS5 is essentially the same block, but with an extra turbo bolted on, by virtue of which the bore actually goes down to 2.9 litres. And while that's a far way off from the previous 4.2 litre naturally aspirated V8, that seems to be very popular in the second-hand market. This car's actually got the same power and way more torque. 450 horsepower and 600 Newton meters of torque is nothing to be scoffed at, and it actually compares quite favorably to the E53. Now this, of course, being a full-blown RS car means that you're met with proper RS speed. Don't let the spec sheet fool you. This thing is fast. In fact, in our testing, we managed a 3.9 second run to 100 kmph, which makes this the fastest 6-cylinder that I've tested so far. Just to put that in context, this RS5 is priced very similarly to the E53 AMG, but it's got the performance that's very, very close to the E63S, and that's serious performance. Now, the fact that this is a torque converter in an RS car might not sit well with RS fans, but given just how quick the shifts are both on the way up and on the way down, it doesn't really leave too much room for complaint, except for the fact that it doesn't have a dedicated launch control. The box holds revs at about 3000 RPM before it sets you off, but I mean, look at the performance. I don't think you need more than that. So all 600 Newton meters of that torque is available from 1900 RPM to just above 5000 RPM. And honestly, what really gets me is that this engine comes so close to the bigger RS engine, the 4 litre bi-turbo, which has its crazy appetite for revs. Sure, this engine doesn't feel like it's hitting the limiter in the bottom gears quite as hard and quite as fast, but that wonderful rush that you feel between 5000 RPM and the red line just a few thousand revs later really gives this car the proper RS feel. So when you put your foot down and you get that wonderful surge that propels you right to the red light, you know that you're driving something special. The one area that you might be left a little wanting is in the soundtrack department. In comfort, the RS5 sounds awfully muted, and at least with the exhaust flaps open in dynamic or any of the RS modes, you get a little more volume and a little more bark to the engine, and it comes close to feeling full-blooded with a little bit of cracks and popples on the overrun. But yeah, this is probably something that you'd want to get taken care of by the aftermarket pretty soon. On roads like these, you certainly feel like you're reaching the limit of performance very soon. Even on a wide open road, the way the RS5 accelerates still feels exciting enough. Though the 250 kmph electronically limited top speed might not be brag-worthy, the RS5 has been tested to be faster than that. If you're a fan of how fast Audis drive, you'd definitely be a fan of the RS5 because it's typically Audi RS. It's precise, the steering feels quite quick. and it goes exactly where you point it to. And of course, the quattro does mean that you can get on the bar quite early, and if you time it right, you're not going to be just an understeery mess. At 1720 kg at the curb, the RS5 Sportback isn't a light car. But that typically light Audi steering doesn't really let you feel the weight of the car, which is a good thing when it comes to placing it on the road. It stands as a great testament to the RS5 suspension setup and self-locking rear differential that I can carry a quick turn of pace on these greasy rain-slicked roads. Now, depending on how you like your flavor of performance, you'd be glad to know that even with traction control and ESP turned off in the RS5, it doesn't really let things get out of hand. So when you approach a corner a little too quickly and you lean on the brakes, you can feel the front dip in and go exactly where you want it to. And even if you do give it a little bit more power than you meant to, you just shoot out. It takes a little bit of recalibration. In isolation, the ride quality on the RS5 feels quite nice over most stretches of road, especially when it's set in comfort. In RS, it does firm things up enough to let you know that you're driving a sporty car. Now, the first impression that you get is of a car that feels just a little dated on the inside. You have this freestanding Audi MMI infotainment touchscreen, and while the UI itself has been updated, the rest of the climate controls, for example, feel like it's from an Audi from a few years back, and it definitely feels last gen. You may also feel that the RS5 is a little short in the features department, though these excellent bucket seats do have a massage function for when you've got some long bits of driving to do. For a car of the RS5's nature, I do wish that the seats themselves were set a little lower in the chassis, because it does feel like you're sat quite high up, and this is even in comparison to relatively pedestrian sedans where you somehow feel like you're sitting more inside the car. That being said, usability is still good with comfortable rear seats and enough space considering the body style. The boot at 465 litres isn't the largest around and doesn't match up to the expectations from an Audi with a notchback tailgate. Of course, now in 2021, the RS5 Coupe is no longer on sale, the M3, M4 are no longer on sale, and neither is the C43. You only do get the C63 AMG with the full fat hand-built V8, but Mercedes-Benz does have the AMG E53, which lies squarely in this price bracket, though that is a larger car. But with the context of having just sampled the AMG E53, which lies square in the RS5's price bracket, the one area where you may feel that the RS5 isn't as usable as the E53 is in the ride quality department. Unfortunately for the RS5 Sportback, comparisons to the M340i are a little inevitable, even though that's not a full-blown M car, and it's a lot more affordable. What it feels like you're getting with the RS5 Sportback is perhaps the most performance for your money than you can get in this price segment. Sure, it does come with caveats. It doesn't feel as evocative as a V8 would have, but as far as the six-cylinder cars go, for this much of performance, I think you can put up with a little bit lack of drama and a little bit lack of emotion. Though at this price and for a six-cylinder car with this level of performance, the RS5 should find quite a few takers.